Well, this time of year during football season, you hear so much about concussions. America's youth can be especially vulnerable, and this is a big issue for all kinds of families. And that includes Fox 32's Anita Padilla, who has her own personal story.
If anybody knows exactly what it's like for a parent to have to deal with a child who has a concussion, it's me. It's very scary for both the child and then for the parent who's trying to search for some answers, only to be told that you could have done something about it sooner.
My kid Seth didn't know the meaning of taking it easy until a few years ago. That's when our overzealous boxer Samson flipped Seth onto his head while playing football in the yard. Seth blacked out, didn't remember anything, and felt sick. He had a concussion.
I started seeing weird things, like not hallucinations, but kind of like pixels and like floaties, and then I started feeling dizzy all the time.
After seeing a doctor, he got better and returned to taekwondo and gym classes. But not long after that, he was riding double on a scooter with a friend. Neither was wearing their helmet when they fell and hit the ground. And this time, the symptoms were different, and we didn't catch it until several weeks and several specialists later.
When I'm laying in my bed, I felt like something was rocking me back and forth, and when I stared at something, it started moving to the side. And it freaked me out.
Back then, he even wrote about his problems in a note to Santa, asking for help with his eyes. Dr. Gaurav Yadava diagnosed Seth with post-concussive syndrome. It's a serious disorder that can last weeks, even months. The pediatric neurologist says concussions are brain injuries, and it can happen to a child at any age during any activity.
I think the biggest risk that we have after a head injury is suffering a second head injury while the brain is still healing from that first head injury. We call that second impact syndrome.
He says vision problems, nausea, and headaches are indications of a concussion. Look for mood changes. Worse yet, the loss of focus or forgetfulness. His message to parents is, not every child becomes a pro ball player, but everybody needs their brain to function.
That in the larger scheme of things, we don't want to have the child suffer any permanent damage to the brain that could impact them on their functional way of life later on.
You know, and the doctors say that it's not just the football players or the cheerleaders, and by the way, they're seeing more of that as well. It's just everyday children who are suffering from these concussions, and so parents, listen to your children. If they're telling you they've got headaches and vision problems, pay attention. I'm Anita Padilla, Fox 32 News.
Which is, of course, excellent advice. Concussions, very serious issue for kids, athletes, parents. We're here with former Bear, Chicago Bear, Gary Fencik, and also Dan Nicholson, who has developed the head case concussion management system. Gentlemen, good to have you with us.
Great.
And yeah, we're talking concussions. And Gary, I know you and I have talked many times about this. The Sports Legacy Institute is a group that you've been involved with for years, and looking into the various ways to sort of get to the bottom of this problem. Where are we now with the Legacy Institute? What are they doing, and what sort of progress has been made?
Well, I think, Corey, the progress, and Dan and I were talking about this, it's all about awareness. Most people, I think, in their mind think the only thing that can happen to their kid is totally divorced from what they see in the NFL. Because their kids aren't 6'8", 300 pounds, they couldn't possibly have a concussion. And I think the SLI and other groups like that have done a very good job of increasing awareness, but we have a long, long ways to go.
All right, and no doubt about it, but it's come, 12, 14 years ago, people weren't talking about it. At least now we're aware. You heard Anita talk about it. I think families and certainly the schools much more aware than they ever have been before. And then tell us about what your group is doing and what you've come up with.
Excellent. Head case company is a concussion management system that helps parents, coaches, and athletes stay on the same page with regards to concussion treatment. It's a three-part system that is a in-helmet sensor, a mobile phone app that is a field side test or home test.
We just saw inside a helmet a moment ago. What was going on inside the helmet?
That's where the sensor resides, and it measures every impact that an athlete or player takes.
Okay.
And then if there is an issue, you use the mobile app to test for symptoms, either on the sideline or at home. And then we store all of that data in a centralized database on the Headcase website for the lifetime of the athlete.
But Dan was telling me, though, this is portable. So it isn't just, okay, I have to buy this for football. You get to use it for other sports. It's like,
that's right.
It's like wearing one of those Fitbits. You ever use that?
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, so
So
Interesting.
we encourage athletes to move it from their hockey helmet to when they play football, put it in their football helmet, and you only have to buy the device once. And then we have a service that we provide that keeps all of that data up to date, you know, every hit, every impact, and then coaches, athletes, and parents can then analyze the data and see how their son or daughter is doing against the national average.
Right, and so far, what sort of traction have you had? How many people are using this, and where do you have it?
Excellent question. We're in evaluation in the northern suburbs, on the East Coast, West Coast. We just came out of R&D. We're actually doing a fundraiser right now on Indiegogo, but visit our website at headcasecompany.com, and you'll learn all about what we're doing.
And the Sports Legacy Institute is now involved with the Head Case group and trying to figure out ways to work together.
Right. And you know, I think SLI and you know, their goal is to increase awareness for all sports, but it's not to discourage people from participating, it's to encourage them. And they use the example of when they first started introducing bike helmets.
Right.
You know, it wasn't to discourage people from riding the bike, it was to encourage them.
That's right.
This is just a, you know, a tool that's going to, I think, give a lot of comfort, if properly used, to parents to help manage their kids.
Right. So, Gary, I got to ask you a question. I'm sure you've been asked this before.
How many have I had?
No, well, how many concussions do you think you had? Do you know?
I think I had one.
No.
Yeah, I got hit by Earl Campbell. Good excuse right there.
Earl Campbell gave a lot of guys concussions.
Frank said he put his hand on my back and I just went to the sideline. But I know some teammates who have had a lot more.
And knowing what you know today, your son, were you encouraging him to play football, or was it to give you some reluctance to push him out there?
I wasn't reluctant. My son actually didn't play football because he went to a prep school here in Chicago that didn't offer it. But he went to St. Ignatius for, you know, a short period of time, and, you know, we love football. He loves football. He's a huge Bears fan. But this, I don't think this is intended or to any current or former players. I think they want their kids to play football. But if they don't, you know, they're just saving themselves probably a couple knee operations, shoulders. You know, if you go through the litany of all the injuries you have in the NFL, it's sometimes you look back and go, was it worth it?
Right. A lot of guys wonder.
Although, you know what? I have to say, I don't know anyone, maybe one player that I've ever played with,
who says he wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
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 I would have done it. They had me.
Dan, great to meet you. Good luck with it.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much.
Gary, good to see you again, sir.
Always great.
All right. We're gonna